Hello and welcome to Owning the Narrative. I am Bulow. The show will feature the top news of the week, complete with my observations, and even a little bit of sarcasm thrown in. The top news stories will be taken from my morning news briefings that I write on the Rick Bulow New Media blog every weekday morning. If you go on to like what you see, smash that thumbs up button. And now, let's go right into the news. We have 15 days until the presidential election on November 3rd, and it looks like Amy Coney Barrett is going to be well confirmed probably about, say, 4 days before the election. Got this likely confirmation schedule for Amy Coney Barrett from Chad Pilgrim over at Fox News. He says, Amy Coney Barrett, the likely confirmation schedule for the Supreme Court nominee. Here's a likely here's a likely timetable for the prospective confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. As is custom, the committee is holding the nomination over for a week. The Senate Judiciary Committee will again meet to consider Barrett's nomination at 1 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, October 22nd. The committee will vote to send the nomination to the floor. Technically the calendar, but that's another story. Now, a nominee does not have to have a favorable recommendation from the committee to go to the floor. Robert Bork received an unfavorable recommendation from the committee in 1987 and was defeated on the floor. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas was sent to the floor with no recommendation in 1991 before being confirmed. The committee will need a simple majority vote to advance the nomination to the full Senate. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, announced earlier this week that he would put the nomination on the floor on Friday, October 23rd. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. If the committee finishes the nomination on October 22nd, then the Senate can't formally consider it until October 23rd. Now keep in mind, that could begin at 12 o'clock, 1 second a.m. Eastern on Friday if McConnell really wants to hit the gas pedal. McConnell must then move to shift the Senate to executive session versus legislative session to specifically consider the Barrett nomination. Such a process likely requires a vote, but is not debatable or subject to a filibuster. That vote could be by roll call, a voice vote, or by unanimous consensus, so long as there is no objection by any senator. Democrats could create some mischief at this stage by not having a quorum present, or demanding a quorum be present, but not helping to constitute a quorum. Now, this step could go to executive session, or this step to go to executive session requires a simple majority. And once the Senate is in an executive session for Barrett, the clerk reads aloud the nomination before the Senate. There is no quote-unquote motion to proceed on this type of nomination, based on precedent set in the late 1970s by the late Senate Majority Leader Robert Byrd, Democrat, West Virginia. Thus, there is no way Democrats could filibuster just starting debate on the nomination. However, Democrats could try to filibuster on the back end. At this stage, McConnell could file cloture to curb debate and overcome a filibuster. McConnell could do this as early as Friday, October 23rd. Now, regardless of when McConnell files cloture by rule, the quote-unquote cloture petition to end debate on the nomination happens for a vote after an intervening day. So if McConnell files cloture during debate on Friday, October 23rd, then Saturday, October 24th is the intervening day. The cloture petition would ripen on Sunday, October 25th. Now, by rule, the Senate can begin voting to end debate on the nomination 1 hour after the Senate meets, following the intervening day. Again, if they want to hit the gas, this could happen at 1 a.m. Eastern on Sunday, October 25th. But we don't know that they will move that expeditiously. It's more likely the Senate votes to end debate on the nomination on Monday, October 26th, or later in the week. Under the provisions of quote-unquote nuclear option 2, where McConnell established a new precedent, now the rules change, lowering the bar to end the filibuster on Supreme Court nominees from 60 votes to 51 to confirm Justice Neil Gorsuch. The Senate would vote to debate on the nomination. That entails a simple majority. Once cloture on the nomination is invoked, halting a filibuster, debate is then limited to 30 hours. Once 30 hours have expired, the Senate may take an up or down vote on the nomination itself. Again, it takes only 51 votes to confirm Barrett. That's why we believe the actual confirmation of Barrett won't happen until the middle or end of the week of October 25th, likely October 28th to 30th. Now, interestingly enough, with that, you know, the October 28th through 30th is roughly about 5 or 6 days before the election. So if they get it all situated, then she could be on the bench by Tuesday, October 3rd, or election day, and thus whatever debates or stuff happens with the confirm or with the Senate, or no, with the election, she could automatically take part in. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And it's interesting to note that the National Review calls Amy Barrett an antidote to our culture of contempt. And this is from Catherine Jean Lopez over at National Review. She is the single quote-unquote civic grace Cory Booker says he seeks. Dude, I want you to punch Donald Trump in the face. During Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation hearings, Democrat Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey quoted a man who approached him at a town hall. Dude, that's a felony, is how Senator Booker described his response. Good for him, fighting against our crazed political culture of anger, contempt, and even violence. Now, I don't agree with Cory Booker on a lot of things, but I agree, as he went on to say, that we need, quote unquote, a revival of civic grace. He said, somewhere along the line, there's going to be a moment. It's coming. I think it's long past that there has to be acts of heroism when it comes to extending grace. Now, that was his pitch to Republicans to hold off a vote on Amy Coney Barrett. Largely because I think Barrett may be the best thing that has happened to American politics in a long time. I disagree. Washington needs her. America needs her. She embodies grace in a lot of ways in her public witness. Listening to her in some of the exchanges was a civics event, when it wasn't insane to borrow the word of Peggy Noonan, Pulitzer Prize winner and speechwriter for President Ronald Reagan, about the state of the nation's capital today. And we do mean insane. I'd walk away from the hearings, come back, and find the senator asking about whether Barrett had ever sexually harassed someone. What? Where did that come from? I had flashbacks to when Democrats threw the kitchen sink at Brett Kavanaugh. One accusation was one thing, but then it seemed like they were ready to pull women off the street to make accusations against him. Booker's comments were an unexpected turn in the hearings, which are dehumanizing as they tend to be. Amy Barrett having to sit with a face mask while she was listening to herself be attacked as a puppet of Donald Trump, understood to be the greatest threat to democracy there is, or ever was, by those suggesting as much. It did liberate her from having to smile through it all, at least. Previously, while opening with what seemed to be a sincere, kind moment about the Barrett family, Dianne Feinstein quickly, creepily jumped to abortion. Even a Republican senator in one of those over-the-top performances. These kinds of hearings, unfortunately, have a reputation for cruelly and unnecessarily brought up abhorrent social media attacks on Barrett and her husband, for adopting two children from Haiti. Last year, Arthur Brooks diagnosed what's ailing American politics. America is addicted to political contempt. While most of us hate what it is doing to our country and worry about how contempt coarsens our culture over the long term, many of us still compulsively consume the ideological equivalent of meth from elected officials, academics, entertainers, and some of the news media. Millions actively indulge their habit by participating in the cycle of contempt in the way they treat others, especially on social media. We wish our national debates were nutritious and substantive, but we have an insatiable craving for insults to the other side. As much as we know we should ignore the nasty columnists, turn off the TV loudmouth, and stop checking our Twitter feeds, we indulge our guilty urge to listen as our biases are confirmed that the other guys are not just wrong but stupid and evil. Sound familiar? Contempt, Brooks writes, is impractical and bad for a country dependent on people working together in politics, communities, and the economy. Unless we hope to become a one-party state, we cannot afford contempt for our fellow Americans who simply disagree with us. And that, my friends, has escalated quickly. There are fears on all sides about exactly that. The confirmation hearings, in fact, were the front lines of escalation. Did you notice the explosion about the phrase quote-unquote sexual preference during the Barrett hearings? That's exactly what more conservative-minded people fear, that one day up will be down, as was said in other contexts during the hearings, and we will all now have to submit to new facts. Amy Barrett didn't mean to make any political statement by her choice of words, but the rules of what is tolerated by polite society, which is somewhat brutal, were changed by the Democrats on that committee during the hearing, leading Merriam-Webster to immediately designate the phrase offensive. If you're an American who fears Amy Barrett on the court, consider that there is another point of view. As I acknowledge you, I'd like us to have old-fashioned debates about ideas. I want to see America survive with freedom of religion and speech and all. How about you? I suspect there are more of us than not, where we just aren't off in the bullhorn types. Broaden what Senator Booker was talking about beyond the Senate. This is the point, he said, when millions of Americans are suffering and hurting and losing the very idea of what it means to be an American in terms of the dream and the promise of this country. This is a moment that this nation needs actions of grace. Take that as a challenge. Work with someone you disagree with, even fundamentals for uneven fundamentals for a greater good. Listen, be an agent of grace. It sanctifies, it heals. It's a way forward. And because of prayer, pray that the impossible will be possible, because it sure feels impossible just about now. But as I say, with grace, all things are possible. And that's totally true. I mean, there are many issues that have gone around, and so much hatred and hateful words being bandied about. In those hearings, Amy Coney Barrett was a model of impeccability and just rising above the hatred there, and she is someone that we definitely need on the court, and I look forward to what will happen on October 23rd, and also coming up next week in the Senate with her. With 2 weeks until the election, the final debate is scheduled for this Thursday, and there are already some controversy about it, beginning with what the Commission on Presidential Debates had said in the statement. Let's go right to that. This from FoxNews.com. Debate Commission says it will mute Trump and Biden while the opponent talks. The Commission on Presidential Debates will mute President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden during the 2-minute response times allotted to their opponents for commenting on topics during Thursday's debate in Nashville. The Commission said in a statement that it had determined that it is appropriate to adopt measures intended to promote adherence to agreed upon rules and inappropriate to make changes to those rules. Also included in the debate will be an open discussion forum that won't include the mute option. Thursday's debate will consist of 6 15-minute segments, totaling 90 minutes in all, as in the first debate. Trump and Biden's initial debate was widely panned as both candidates faced backlash for their behavior. The two candidates skipped the second presidential debate after Trump was diagnosed with the novel coronavirus and declined to participate in a virtual format. Announced on Monday, the new rule drew scrutiny from the Trump campaign, which urged the committee earlier in the day to include more discussion of foreign policy in the next debate. President Trump is committed to debating Joe Biden regardless of the last-minute rule changes from the Bias Commission in their latest attempt to provide an advantage to their favorite candidate, read a statement from campaign manager Bill Stepien. In a letter, Stepien had accused the commission of adding to a broader pattern of quote-unquote pro-Biden annex with its choice of topics. The upcoming debate topics included fighting COVID-19, American families, national security, leadership, climate change, and race in America. The commission did not immediately respond to Fox News' request for comment. The Biden campaign responded to Stepien's letter by suggesting he was lying. The candidates and the commission agreed months ago that the debate moderator would choose the topics. National Press Secretary T.J. Ducklow said in a statement provided to Fox News, "The Trump campaign is lying about that now because Donald Trump is afraid to face more questions about his disastrous COVID response. As usual, the president is more concerned with the rules of a debate than he is getting a nation in crisis the help it needs." But Ali Pardo, Deputy Communications Director for the Trump campaign, told Fox News that over the past several months, the CPD verbally confirmed on multiple occasions that the third topic would have a foreign policy focus. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York, previously suggested a mute button would be necessary for another debate to take place. "Maybe we should give the moderator a mute button, given how President Trump just interrupts at will," Schumer said a day after the first debate. And the bottom line is Donald Trump didn't follow the rules and the commission has got to get a lot tougher. But his counterpart in the House, Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Republican California, argued a mute button gave the moderator too much power. "If you're going to run for the free leader of the world, we want to hear what you have to say. But now we're going to allow one person, the moderator, to determine what the American people can hear from our candidates," he previously said on Fox and Friends. Now, I mean, looking at that, I can see where like the first 2 minutes that each candidate has, to make their point so as to get what they want out of the way. I could see that. What I'm afraid of is that the moderator will continue to use the mute button during the 11-minute open discussion forum. But I guess we'll wait and see come Thursday what comes of that. Now, while that's happening, one person thinks that's it's a bad idea. This from our good friends over at hotair.com and a la pundit. It says Trump campaign to debate commission. "We want the third debate to be about foreign policy, not the topics you've chosen. The constant whining about unfairness in all things at all times is part of the reason why Trump's behind it today. Only hardcore political junkies will pay attention to this letter from Bill Stepien, but it's in keeping with the endless grousing from the candidate himself about every development that's unfavorable to him, large or small, For many swing voters, I think the feeling right now is hour 4 of a road trip with a cranky child in the backseat. Every parent knows that moment when they reach their limit. And I think the electorate's reached its limit. But here's the thing. Just because the child is cranky doesn't mean every complaint it has is without merit. Now, Steppian's right that foreign policy has been given short shrift thus far, although that's partly because Trump decided he didn't want to bother with the second quote-unquote virtual debate, and Steppian's certainly right to believe that foreign policy would be a stronger subject for Trump than the current state of scheduled topics, which includes COVID, race relations, and leadership. There's a bloodbath in the making for the incumbent. He'd be better off taking it to Biden and the support for the Iraq War, the Iran deal, his far too sanguine view of China's rise to power, and Trump's successes in brokering peace deals between Israel and various Arab states. The country deserves a light devoted to foreign policy, and Biden deserves to have the answer for his terrible foreign policy instincts. All I say to Stepien in response is this: Trump has been free to draw this contrast since the start of the debate. A smart, sane candidate would have spent 50% of his time since April on the trail discussing the blockbuster economic growth of his first 3 years in office, and the other 50% on his foreign policy successes, starting with the lack of any major new wars and the successful termination of al-Baghdadi and Soleimani. No one's forcing him to spend his time attacking Fauci or obsessing about Hunter Biden's laptop or his Section 230. All of that is crap geared at pleasing the people who are already committed to voting for him. If he's suddenly interested in reaching swing voters with a foreign policy message, why hasn't he pushed it from the start? Why didn't he make it a condition of his town hall with NBC last week that the topics be restricted to foreign policy? From Steppian's letter, let me see if I can blow it up for you guys here. We understand that Joe Biden is desperate to avoid conversations about his own foreign policy record, especially since President Trump has secured historic peace agreements among Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. We recall that Biden's former Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, maintains that Biden has been wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. Biden has supported endless wars and given aid and comfort to our adversaries, including Iran, which was delivered pallets loaded with mounds of cash, just as 4 Americans were released from captivity in Tehran. Biden has also advanced the interests of China over his 47 years as a Washington politician, putting their concerns ahead of those of American workers. New information recently revealed indicates that Biden himself was mentioned as a financial beneficiary of a deal arranged by his son Hunter and a communist Chinese-related energy company. If a major party candidate for president of the United States is compromised by the Communist Party of China, this is something Americans deserve to hear about, but it is not surprising that Biden would want to avoid it. It is completely irresponsible for the commission to alter the focus of this final debate just days before the event, solely to isolate Biden from his own history. Good points all, and points that the president is free to make outside the debate context, but largely chooses not to, which raises a question. Does the campaign truly want the debate commission to change its topics at the last second, or is this letter a pretext to back out of the debate on Thursday? More from the letter. It reads, the commission's pro-Biden tactics have turned the entire debate session into a fiasco, and it is little wonder why the public has lost faith in its objectivity. The moderator for the first debate styled himself as a third combatant on stage, with almost all of his venom directed at President Trump. The moderator of the second debate, which was canceled, has yet to retract its public statement for support for the moderator's bogus hacking cover story, which resulted in the moderator's indefinite suspension from his place of employment. Finally, the moderator of the third debate now has decided to pursue topics almost wholly unrelated to the purpose of the event, which was supposed to be focused on foreign policy. It is our understanding from media reports that you will soon be holding an internal meeting to discuss other possible rules changes, such as granting an unnamed person the ability to shut off a candidate's microphone. It is completely unacceptable for anyone to wield such power, and a decision to proceed with that change amounts to turning further editorial content or control of the debate over to the commission, which has already demonstrated its partiality to Biden. This is reminiscent of the first debate in 2016 when the president's microphone was oscillated, and it is not acceptable. If the commission says no, we're sticking to our plan and letting the moderator cut the mic as needed, then what's Trump's and Sepian's next move? The conventional wisdom is that he desperately needs this debate since it's his last chance to expose Biden in front of a gigantic audience. But what if Stepien has concluded that the risk outweighs a potential reward? Nate Silver from 538.com tweets, unless Stepien thinks Trump would be so bad that debating would lower his comeback odds, even though Trump generally wants high variance strategies, it's not crazy. Trump historically loses ground following debates, and his messaging has been even more erratic than usual lately. Maybe his advisors fear that Trump's reached a point of such loose cannon up message mania that he's more likely to do himself further damage on Thursday than to hurt Biden. So they came up with this 11th hour demand for a foreign policy showdown, knowing that the commission will probably decline and that they can seize on that as an excuse to bail. Now, they don't want him saying anything in a big spotlight in front of the few remaining undecideds out there that might alienate them. Here's what Drudge as of 5 p.m. Eastern as I'm writing this. The message clearly is that Trump is off the rails. Headlines from America, and there's a link that, in a tweet by Oliver Darcy. He did say that reporters were criminal for not reporting more on Hunter Biden's laptop. He said he wanted Biden locked up too, presumably without probable cause. President Trump says Joe Biden is lucky that Bill Barr is Attorney General, because I know people that would have had him locked up 5 weeks ago, in a tweet from Caitlin Collins. He also complains that there's too much reporting about COVID. Aaron Riptar tweeted out, they're getting tired of the pandemic, aren't they? You turn on CNN and that's all they cover. COVID, pandemic, COVID. You know why? They're trying to talk everybody out of voting. People aren't buying it, CNN, you dumb bastards. Is Trump. Then he accused Biden of wanting to listen to Fauci, to which Biden replied on Twitter, yes. Do even MAGA fans think this is a smart way to finish the campaign? At what point does Trump's habit of sloppy, scattershot attacks bear some blame for the political hole he's in? Last week, it was reported that he might deliver a foreign policy speech before the election to highlight his achievements, but he could be delivering abridged versions of that message every day at his rallies to a national cable news audience. He prefers to ride his hobby horses instead. If he loses next month and it's the end of America, freakout starts. Remember that he himself didn't care enough about victory to stick to a message that would maximize his chances of success. The campaign was more a vehicle for his vanity, to give him a chance to recite his grievances in front of an adoring audience, than a means of persuading reluctant people to vote for him. I'll leave you with this mess from the Biden campaign. If Team Trump is looking for a reason to back out on Thursday, the Democrats will oblige them. Christopher Catalago tweeted out, Biden's at T-Duckler responds to debate letter. The campaigns and the commission agreed months ago that the debate moderator would choose the topics. The Trump campaign is lying about that now because Donald Trump is afraid to face more questions about his disastrous COVID response. And that from Hot Air. And I mean, I'm telling you, you know, with 2 weeks until the election, things are definitely desperately going downhill in a hurry. I think for both campaigns, but you know, we shall see. And then there's also this from Conservative Daily News. Here are the topics for the next presidential debate. The Commission on Presidential Debates on Friday announced the topics for the next presidential debate, which include raising fighting coronavirus. New, Kirsten Welker, moderator of the October 22nd presidential debate at Belmont University, has selected topics: fighting COVID-19, American families, race in America, climate change, national security, and leadership. This from CBD, or the Commission on Presidential Debates Twitter account. The Debate Commission's tweet comes after Democrat presidential nominee Joe Biden and President Donald Trump's competing town halls, which substituted for a canceled debate, Fox News reported. The commission canceled the debate after Trump said he wouldn't participate after the organization announced that it wouldn't be virtual due to the president's coronavirus infection. Biden confirmed his attendance for the upcoming debate, but noted that he thinks the president should get tested for the virus beforehand. Fox News reported the debate is set for Thursday at 9 p.m. at Belmont University. It's just decency, Biden told ABC host George Stephanopoulos. The Commission on Presidential Debates did not immediately respond to a request for comment. And I mean, both sides are just getting desperate. However, there is one good thing that I think Trump could possibly hang his hat on, and that being that the Senate, and this just in from thehill.com, and it says, Senate to confirm Monday to confirm Amy Coney Barrett to Supreme Court. The Senate on Monday the Senate will vote Monday on confirming President Trump's nominee, Judge Amy Coney Barrett, to the Supreme Court. With regard to the Supreme Court justice, we'll be voting to confirm Justice to be Barrett next Monday. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, said during a weekly press conference, confirming the timing of a final vote on her nomination. I think that will be another signature accomplishment in our effort to put on the courts, the federal courts, men and women who believe in the quaint notion that maybe the job of a judge is to actually follow the law, McConnell added. Top GOP senators and aides had previously indicated to the Hill that they were likely to set the final vote for Monday, allowing vulnerable GOP senators to spend the final week before the election back on the campaign trail. To set up a final vote on Monday, McConnell is expected to tee up Barrett's nomination Friday, a day after the Judiciary Committee is expected to sign off on her nomination. The Senate will then hold a procedural vote Sunday. After that, senators could still debate her nomination for an additional 30 hours. Republicans appear confident that they will have the votes to put Barrett on the Supreme Court, setting a new record for the closest to a presidential election a nominee has been confirmed. Though other judicial nominees have been confirmed in a fewer number of days, they were further away from Election Day. Now, because Republicans hold 53 seats, Barrett could lose 3 GOP senators. He is to be confirmed by letting Vice President Pence break a tie. If Pence is needed, then it would be the first time a vice president has had to weigh in on a Supreme Court confirmation vote. Only Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine said she will oppose Barrett because she does not believe a nominee should be considered before the election. Senator Lisa Murkowski, Republican Alaska, said she does not believe a nominee should be taken up, but hasn't said how she will vote on Barrett's nomination. Murkowski is expected to meet with Barrett this week. So it'll be interesting, and with the confirmation vote set for possibly for Monday the 26th, or 26th. I'm thinking that things might be moving along, and if that is the last official act that Trump has as president, I think it'll be interesting regardless what happens. But I will keep an eye on it and give you the update as it happens. We are 13 days away from the election. We are about 24 hours away from the final debate. And already there are issues with the Commission on Presidential Debates. This from the American Spectator. Time to mute the debate commission by Jeffrey Lloyd. Here's a headline from the latest on from the Commission on Presidential Debates. Debate Commission adopts new rules to mute mic. The story reported here by PBS says this. President Donald Trump and Democrat Joe Biden will have their microphones cut off in Tuesday's or Thursday's debate while their rival delivers their opening 2-minute answer to each of the debate topics. Before this rule change was announced, there was this headline from the Wall Street Journal editorial board that said it all. Retire the debate commission. The Steve Scully fiasco is the latest blow to its credibility. The editorial hit the nail on the head in saying this, bold print supplied. CNN has suspended correspondent Steve Scully for lying about a Twitter message to a critic of President Trump. The network is trying to protect its reputation for nonpartisan fairness, and we wish we could say the same about the Commission on Presidential Debates. This new hit to the Commission's credibility comes shortly after its high-handedness led to the cancellation of the second debate. It announced the debate would be virtual before the candidates had agreed to it. Mr. Trump wouldn't attend, and the debate was killed. As for the commission being made up of Democrats and Republicans, former Senate Majority Leader Bob Dole says he knows every Republican on the commission, and it concerns him that not one supports President Trump. The Commission on Presidential Debates is an example of another institution that seemed like a good idea, but over time has become a creature of Washington's political class. Its moderators typically tilt left, and it acts as if it's bigger than the candidates. This year should be its last as the arbiter of debates. If it won't go away on its own, the next GOP nominee should refuse to cooperate and negotiate the rules and timing of the debates in 2014 with the Democrat nominee. Bingo! 4 years from now, the two parties should take back control of the debates, and the business of having a quote-unquote moderator who is in fact a very thinly disguised liberal or a creature of the Washington establishment should end. It would be far better to have two moderators, one a conservative and one a liberal, selected by each of the campaigns to ask the questions. If the latest debate were to be really fair, the liberal NBC White House correspondent Kristen Welker would be paired with someone like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, or Mark Levin. There are a lot of Americans who load up on the popcorn debate night to see Joe Biden getting thrilled by any of these three. The most famous of presidential debates, the 1960 series between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon, managed to thrive with no one other than the two campaigns and the television network involved doing the negotiating of the rules. It's too late now. Walker has released her list of debate topics to the commission. They are fighting COVID-19, race in America, climate change, national security, leadership, and American families. Notice anything missing? Where's Hunter? Where's the topic of the Biden family influence peddling in there? Answer, it isn't there, which means President Trump will have to bring it up on his own and should. And then, will Walker try to shut him down? We shall see. But enough of this is more than enough. The ultimate power grab of a moderator being told by a debate commission that she must mute the President of the United States and or his opponent is beyond belief. If this says anything, it is that yes, it is finally time for the Commission on Presidential Debates to be gone with the political winds. I agree with that. And as a matter of fact, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, there was an article that I had mentioned which brought up Joe Rogan actually saying that he liked to moderate a debate, possibly have the two candidates on his podcast, for a 3-hour podcast. And I mean, that is something in this age of of podcasts and vlogs and, virtual technology. We need something like that, just do away with the commission. Let the two campaign chairmen work work things out. I mean, the campaign chair people change every 4 years, possibly. Depending on if the incumbent keeps his campaign intact. Just have the candidates go on a podcast, or even better yet, and I might get into it come tomorrow or Friday, mayhap the Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was in 2012. Newt Gingrich actually challenged I think it was either one of the Republican candidates for president, or even President Obama himself, to a series of Lincoln Douglas debates. You know, but more on that tomorrow or Friday, depending. And speaking of tomorrow, like I said, the final debate is tomorrow. Got this from NPR. The final Lincoln Trump the final Biden Trump debate is Thursday. Here's what you need to know. Democrat presidential nominee Joe Biden and President Trump will have the final debate on Thursday. With less than 2 weeks until voting concludes, President Trump and Democrat presidential nominee Joe Biden will face off for the final time in a debate on Thursday, likely marking Trump's last chance to reach a massive audience as he trails Biden in polls nationally and in key states. They will share the stage 3 weeks after their first debate, which was headlined by Trump's near constant interrupting of both his opponent and the moderator, a tactic that appeared to have hurt him in subsequent polling. The Nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates acknowledged the chaos and pledged to add additional structure to the format of the remaining debates to avoid a repeat performance. On Monday evening, the commission announced the muting of microphones to start each of Thursday's debate segments. Under the new rules, Trump and Biden will each have 2 minutes of uninterrupted time at the beginning of each 15-minute segment. Afterward, they can discuss issues with each other with both microphones open. The Trump campaign has said without evidence that debate organizers are biased in favor of Biden. Still, in a statement following the new rule change, Trump campaign manager Bill Stepien said, President Trump is committed to debating Joe Biden regardless of last-minute rule changes from the Bias Commission in their latest attempt to provide advantage to their favorite candidate. Since the two candidates first squared off on September 29, the president tested positive for the coronavirus, was hospitalized at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center for COVID-19 treatment, and resumed in-person campaigning once given the all-clear from his medical team. The two were set to meet again in a town hall-style debate last week, but Trump balked when the debate commission opted to make the event virtual. Given the president's recent COVID-19 diagnosis, the debate was then canceled. Instead, both candidates participated in dueling broadcast town halls on the night that the debate was originally scheduled. Thursday's final debate offers an opportunity for Trump to pick up some momentum in front of a large audience as he trails behind Biden in polls. In the latest NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll, Biden leads Trump with 54% to 43% nationally among likely voters. The former vice president is also ahead by several percentage points in crucial states such as Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, according to Real Clear Politics polling averages, with smaller margins in places like Florida and North Carolina. But despite the leads in survey snapshots, the Biden campaign is urging supporters not to get complacent In a memo Saturday, Biden campaign manager Jen O'Malley Dillon warned Donald Trump can still win this race. The reality is that this race is far closer than some of the punditry we're seeing on Twitter and TV would suggest, she wrote. In the key battleground states where this election will be decided, we remain neck and neck with Donald Trump. Trump also faces a financial challenge. Despite starting his re-election campaign with a large cash advantage, he's being outspent by Biden on TV ads in 6 key states. The Biden campaign announced last week that along with allied Democrat groups, it raised $383 million in November alone, about $135 million more than the Trump campaign and Republican affiliates collected last month. As of Tuesday evening, nearly 36 million people had already voted in this election, according to the U.S. Elections Project. Here are the details for the final presidential debate. When? 9 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. Where? Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. Who's moderating? Kristen Welker of NBC News. Trump is sticking to his habit of moderating or criticizing the moderator ahead of a debate. Walker's been screaming questions for a long time. She's no good, Trump said during a Monday rally in Prescott, Arizona. But Trump's senior advisor, Jason Miller, told Fox News' Martha McCallum in early October that he has a very, very high opinion of Walker and that she's a journalist who is very fair in her approach. What's the format? The debate will be divided into 6 15-minute segments. Each candidate will have 2 minutes of uninterrupted time at the beginning of each segment. What are the topics? Walker released the tentative topics a week ahead of the debate. Not necessarily in this order, these are the topics. Fighting COVID-19, American families, race in America, climate change, national security, and leadership. Stepien, Trump's campaign manager, sent the debate commission a letter on Monday, slamming it for not including a section on foreign policy, which the campaign sees as a weak point for Biden. Before he was vice president, Biden chaired the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Stepien asked the commission to rethink and reissue a set of topics for the debate, with an emphasis on foreign policy. And that's the article. And I agree with that. You know, let's hear what they have to say about foreign policy, especially given how Biden was Obama's vice president when Osama bin Laden was killed, and also when Benghazi came up naturally, but a couple of other issues like the line in Syria, the Arab Spring, Muammar Gaddafi, we need to hear something on foreign policy, especially given the fact that, as the article had mentioned, before Biden was vice president, he was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. So we need to hear something on foreign policy. Anyway, I will be giving more on the debate in a preview tomorrow, and then and I will wrap it up and I will give a wrap up on Friday. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time. With 11 days left until the election, the final debate is slated for tonight in Nashville, Tennessee, and there are 5 things to look for as President Trump and Democrat presidential nominee, former Vice President Joe Biden, clash for the final time. This coming from the Washington Examiner. The final debate, 5 things to look for as Trump and Biden clash for last time, by Rob Crilly. The two candidates could not have chosen more difficult preparation or more different preparation strategies. While Democrat nominee Joe Biden has locked himself away in his Delaware home Before the final debate in Nashville, Tennessee on Thursday, President Trump is out on the campaign trail, complaining that the rules of the moderator are stacked against him. Trump has gone to makeup. He currently lags Biden by 8.6 percentage points in the Real Clear Politics average of national opinion polls, while the Democrat challenger will simply be hoping to get through the night safely without raising fresh concerns about his age or health. Here's what to look for on the night. Hunter Biden. Trump and his supporters have been desperate to drag Biden's troubled son into the campaign, asking where's Hunter for months. Now the president has an opportunity. Last week, the New York Post published details of emails and photos apparently taken from a laptop used by Hunter, alleging that his father had knowledge of his overseas business dealings and may even have had a financial stake, according to some reports. Joe Biden dismissed the lyric claims as a smear. Other news organizations have been refused access to the files and have steered clear of the story. Now, Trump will have 90 minutes to repeat the allegations in front of a primetime audience and is expected to spend ample time doing so. Muted microphones. The first debate was less of a debate than a festival of crosstalk, with both candidates speaking over the other. Trump was by far the worst offender as he deployed a tactic insiders said was designed to put Biden off his stride. Organizers took note. On Monday, the debate commission announced it would mute one candidate's microphone to ensure that the other would get 2 minutes of uninterrupted talk time at the start of each topic area. Trump aides see a potential win in this. The longer Biden has to outline his vision, they reason, the more voters will be deterred by his leftist plans and the more likely he is to ramble. But what does Trump do? Does he have the policy chops to use his own time effectively? He does, and I'll get to that in a couple of later on during this episode. Foreign policy. The Trump campaign has complained to the commission about the policy areas selected for the debate, fighting COVID-19, race in America, climate change, American families, national security, leadership. It says it was promised foreign policy would be the theme. No wonder it complained. A thing facing down Kim Jong-un, killing the leader of ISIS, and withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal showed Trump as a man of action, compared with an opponent who, as part of the Obama administration, helped bog down America in endless wars, and who was less than enthusiastic about greenlighting the operation to kill Osama bin Laden. Trump allies have an answer. The president needs to pivot away from the question asked in order to address the question Trump wants to answer. That means taking the debate away from the coronavirus and climate change to the Trump bidding foreign policy wins whenever possible. Moderator Kristen Walker. Moderating a presidential debate should be the pinnacle of any career. Now it comes with smears and warnings. Chris Wallace of Fox News found himself under intense scrutiny during the first debate when he failed to keep control and struggled even to make his voice heard. NBC News White House correspondent Kristen Walker is in the hot seat on Thursday. At the age of 44, she is the least experienced of the three moderators chosen for the 2020 debates. Trump aides initially welcomed her appointment, but supporters have since accused her of being anti-Trump after the New York Post published details of her parents' political donations. Last weekend, the president joined in, tweeting that Walker had always been terrible and unfair, just like most of the fake news reporters. She's always, this coming from a tweet on October 17. She's always been terrible and unfair, just like most of the fake news reporters, but also play the game that people know. How's Steve Scully doing? If hosting a debate was not pressure enough, now moderators must cope with psychological games and hit pieces before they even take the chair. Does it even matter? History shows that the first debate is the most watched and the most consequential. With less than 2 weeks to Election Day, how many people have already made up their minds? That is even more true of the 2020 election. More than 30 million votes have already been cast, potentially further reducing the impact of debate performance. Now, I myself had voted early and I don't know if I'll be watching this debate because with the last debate I had intended to watch it, took a nap, but woke up a little too late. I'll try and take a nap a little bit earlier this time, and hopefully wake up in time to watch it. But if not, in my news briefing for tomorrow, I'm sure I'll be reading a lot about it in my newsletters. And by the way, I will be leaving a link to my news briefing in the description section below, so take a look at that when you can. And yeah, it's interesting, and I got this from AP News. It's entitled Face to Face, Trump and Biden to meet for final debate. President Donald Trump and his Democratic challenger Joe Biden are set to square off in the final debate Thursday, one of the last high-profile opportunities for the trailing incumbent to change the trajectory of an increasingly contentious campaign. Worried about losing the White House, some advisors are urging Trump to trade his aggressive demeanor from the first debate for a lower key style that puts Biden more squarely in the spotlight. But it's unclear whether the president will listen. Biden, who has stepped off the campaign trail in favor of debate prep, expects Trump to get intensely personal. The former vice president and his inner circle see the president's approach chiefly as an effort to distract from the coronavirus, its economic fallout, and other crises. With less than 2 weeks until Election Day, Biden is leading most national polls and has a narrower advantage in the battleground states that could decide the race. More than 42 million people have already cast their ballots. The debate, moderated by NBC's Kristen Welker, is a final chance for both men to make their case to a television audience of tens of millions of voters. The rule is that last debates before the election have a big impact, said presidential historian Michael Beschloss, who made clear the legacy of the candidates' first face-off. That was the most out-of-control presidential debate we have seen. Trump, who staged a remarkable comeback in the closing days of the 2016 campaign, believes he can do it again by using the power of the presidency to attack his rival. Trump on Tuesday called on Attorney General William Barr to immediately launch an investigation into unverified claims about Biden and his son Hunter, effectively demanding that the Justice Department muddy his political opponent and abandon its historic resistance to getting involved in elections. The president has promoted an unconfirmed New York Post report published last week that cites an email in which an official from Ukrainian gas company Burisma thanked Hunter Biden, who served on the company's board, for arranging for him to meet Joe Biden during a 2015 visit to Washington. The Biden campaign has rejected Trump's assertion of wrongdoing and noted that Biden's schedule did not show a meeting with the Burisma official. Some former national security officials and other experts said the episode raised multiple red flags of a possible foreign and disinformation effort, especially given the involvement of Rudy Giuliani, Trump's personal attorney, and Giuliani's active role in promoting an anti-Biden narrative on Ukraine. But John Ratcliffe, the director of national intelligence, dismissed that disinformation theory, and the FBI appeared to endorse Ratcliffe's position in a letter to a Senate committee that had requested information on a laptop purportedly belonging to Hunter Biden. Trump's attacks on the Biden family have been relentless, including his efforts to get Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden, which led to Trump's impeachment. As part of a determined, yet so far unsuccessful, effort to drive up his opponent's negatives, as he did with Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. Trump campaign communications director Tim Murtaugh said, Trump is still a political outsider while Biden is the ultimate insider. We now know that Biden allowed his son to sell access to him while he was vice president. While Biden will defend his own record and his son, aides have said he hopes to focus on making the case that Trump is unfit for office and let the nation know during a conference of crises. He knows that people want to hear about how we're doing to help working families get through the end of the month and pay the rent, his running mate, Senator Kamala Harris, said Wednesday in North Carolina. That's what people care about, and one of the things I love about Joe Biden, he doesn't take on or talk about other people's kids. The 1-2 punch of the first debate in the president's 3-day hospital stint after contracting COVID-19 rattled his base of support and triggered alarm among Republicans who fear the White House and Senate could be slipping away. Now, the initial debate was the most tumultuous in American history, or modern history rather, with a belligerent tone that was persistent and somehow fitting for what has been an extraordinary ugly campaign. Amid heated clashes over the pandemic, the Supreme Court, and the integrity of the election itself, Trump refused to condemn white supremacists who have supported him, telling one such group, known as the Proud Boys, to stand back and stand by. The two men frequently talked over each other, with Trump interrupting, nearly shouting, so often that Biden eventually snapped at him, "Will you shut up, man?" Aides have urged Trump, who has skipped debate prep, to show some restraint this time, allowing Biden to speak more and get himself in trouble with verbal gaffes and lapses. But the president has made no promises. Some people think let him talk because he loses his train of thought. He just loses it and he doesn't speak the train of thought. Trump said in a town hall discussion taped at the White House Rose Garden and aired by Sinclair broadcast group on Wednesday evening. But we'll see what happens. I mean, you'll have to be there. Here's how it was 2 days after the first debate in Cleveland, when Trump tested positive for the coronavirus. The White House has refused to reveal when the president has last tested negative before the debate, raising questions as to whether he was already infected when he took the stage. After the diagnosis, the Commission on Presidential Debates ruled that the second debate, which was to have been held last week, be virtual. Trump balked, leading to the cancellation of the debate, and the two men holding dueling town halls instead, speaking at the same time more than 1,000 miles or 1,600 kilometers apart. On the debate stage Wednesday, two large plexiglass shields had been put in place in front of the candidates' lecterns. On Thursday night, in an effort to curtail interruptions, Trump and Biden will each have his microphone cut off while his driver delivers an opening 2-minute answer to each of the 6 debate topics the commission announced. Now, the mute button won't figure in the opening discussion portion of the campaign, but has drawn criticism from Trump. The mute is very unfair, he said Wednesday as he left the White House for a campaign rally. Now, while it is unfair, I personally kind of see it, because I mean, each candidate has 2 minutes to speak. 2 minutes for Trump, 2 minutes for Biden, and then just 11 minutes of just an all-out free-for-all. Which I think will play to Trump's strengths, because he can use that time to probably either hammer Biden or let Biden just talk and talk and talk and talk and basically talk himself into the ground. But we shall see just what'll come out of that. Now, speaking of the mute button, Commission on Presidential Debates co-chairman Frank Fahrenkopf was on the story with Martha McCallum on Fox News yesterday and claimed that the mute button is neither a change nor unfair. And this coming from FoxNews.com by Charles Kreitz. Presidential Debate Commission co-chair claims mute button is neither a change nor unfair. The institution of a mute button for parts of Thursday's presidential debate between President Trump and Joe Biden is meant to enforce the agreed upon rules rather than change them. Commission on Presidential Debates co-chairman Frank Fahrenkopf told the story Wednesday. The two candidates will each have their microphones silenced while their opponent delivers their opening 2-minute response to questions posed by the debate moderator, NBC News reporter Kristen Walker. In the first debate, as you know, there were interruptions. Fahrenkopf told host Martha McCallum, "We haven't changed any rules. We've just put in a system where when one is talking just for that 2-minute period, the other cannot interfere. They both will get a full 2 minutes in each of those segments to talk, and the rest of the time, there is no muting, no buttons to push. They will be able to go at each other the way they want to." Fahrenkopf added that Walker will not be in charge of the muting button. The co-chairman also said President Trump's claim the final debate was supposed to focus on foreign policy should be debunked. President Trump's claim. It was never mainly foreign policy, Fahrenkopf insisted. I told the campaign 2 weeks ago that it wasn't a foreign policy debate. I refer them back to 2016 when the president participated in the debate. The first and last debate topics depend upon the subject matter that the moderator presents for the 6 sections. It was never, ever on foreign policy, he said. Now, while that might conceivably be true, there's something a little off with that, but we'll get to that soonish. Now, as I had mentioned when I read the first article, that there was a debate question for Trump. Keep interrupting or let Biden talk. This article from abcnews.com and Ben Gittleson says, following a widely panned performance at the first presidential debate of the 2020 election, President Donald Trump said this week he was doing little in the way of formal preparation for his second and final meeting on Thursday with his Democrat opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden. "We do interviews with you," Trump told reporters in Arizona Monday, where he held 2 campaign rallies. "This is I call this debate prep. This is actually tougher than a debate if you want to know the truth." Biden, meanwhile, spent much of the week off the trail, using several days in his home state of Delaware to get ready for Thursday's face-off. In an interview Wednesday, he said that, while he hoped the debate would be substantive, he was readying for a barrage of personal attacks from Trump like those the president leveled in their first matchup. "I hope he's going to come prepared to talk about what he's for," Biden told Milwaukee and ABC affiliate WISN. "But my guess is he's kind of signaling that he's going to be all about that it's going to be all about personal attacks." Even some of the president's supporters criticized his constant interruptions at the first debate in Cleveland last month and led organizers to announce that this time they would mute the candidates' microphones during their opponents' initial 2-minute responses. A number of the president's allies called on him to let Biden speak more. The upside of the muted mics is Joe Biden will be forced to speak more than 30 seconds. He will inevitably walk himself into a few disasters. White House Press Secretary Kelly McEnany said on Tuesday in an interview with Fox Business. Speaking with the Fox and Friends morning show on Tuesday, Trump said he may change his strategy and interrupt less, but sounded undecided on his approach. They said if you let him talk, he'll lose his chain of thought because he's gonzo, the president said, referring to Biden. And I understand that, but I also understand that as he's going down the line and issuing lies, generally it's okay to, really attack that. Trump held at least one preparation session ahead of the first debate in late October. Of the at least 9 people who attended, 6 subsequently tested positive for the novel coronavirus. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, an ABC contributor who attended, said no one wore a mask. Of the 6 who tested positive included Trump campaign manager Bill Stepien, senior White House advisors Hope Hicks and Stephen Miller, former advisor Kellyanne Conway, and the president himself. Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner, personal lawyer Rudy Giuliani, and senior campaign advisor Jason Miller also participated in the first debate. And for months on the campaign trail, Biden has hammered Trump over his handling of the coronavirus pandemic And in poll after poll, large majorities of the American public have expressed disapproval of the president's response. Trump has since the start of the outbreak played down the risk from the virus, and despite varying trends across the country and more than 211,000 deaths, has repeatedly insisted falsely that the United States is rounding the final turn of the pandemic. He has signaled he has no plans to change that message heading into Thursday. Given an opportunity in a friendly Sinclair town hall to say if he got a do-over, whether he would handle things differently, Trump characteristically replied, "Not much." And that's that. Now, tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, NPR, Fox News, Fox Business, CNN, MSNBC, and CNBC. They'll all have the debate. The debate will also be held on One American News Network and also on Right Side Broadcasting Network. So watch it on there. Like I said, I may watch it. Then again, who knows? Because I might just take a nap. And if I'm up in time, I might watch a little bit of it. And if not, well, like I said, I will be doing my news briefing tomorrow, and I'll be reading a lot of the highlights from various newsletters and news outlets. So stay tuned tomorrow as I bring you the review and highlights of the second presidential debate. Just inside 11 days until the election, and things are at a fevered pitch, beginning with the debate last night, and also Amy Coney Barrett being passed through by the Senate Judiciary Committee. Got this article from Fox News, and it reads: Senate leadership exchanged angry jibes after the vote to advance Amy Coney Barrett. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Minority Leader Chuck Schumer exchanged jabs Thursday after the vote by Senate Republicans to advance Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. Despite Democrats' boycott of the Judiciary Committee's vote on Barrett, Chairman Lindsey Graham pushed forward with the vote, resulting in a 12-0 turnout. But under the committee's rules, at least 2 members of the minority party must be present in order for there to be a quorum to quote-unquote transact business. To call this process illegitimate is being too kind, Schumer said after the Thursday vote. Senator Graham has broken the rules of the committee to move forward with the vote on Judge Barrett to rip health care away from millions. In response to the Schumer-led boycott of the Judiciary Committee's vote, McConnell accused Schumer of lashing out in random ways. While on the Senate floor Thursday, day after day, our colleague from New York performs the same angry speech with the same falsehoods, McConnell said. I'm sorry that he feels a need to say things that are false. But Schumer fired back while on the Senate floor, calling GOP senators' push to confirm Barrett just 8 days before the general election a hypocritical, a house of lies, and a stand on the Senate. McConnell is angry because we Democrats have exposed that he has defiled the Senate, the minority leader said. And we have the culmination of this Republican majority's erosion of rules and norms in the raw pursuit of political power. And the political insults were exchanged after the Senate prepares for a full vote on Barrett's confirmation to the Supreme Court Monday, which falls 8 days before November 3. Democrats are worried Barrett's appointment to the Supreme Court could risk women's federal right to an abortion and the viability of the Affordable Care Act, which is a concern likely confirmed by comments made by President Trump during a CBS 60 Minutes interview released Tuesday. I hope they ended. Trump told Leslie Stahl in clip the White House released early. It'll be good if they ended, he added, in answer to a question regarding Obamacare. Democrats are frustrated by the GOP's push to confirm Barrett just days before the general election, which will be the only Supreme Court confirmation in U.S. history to occur within 5 months of a presidential election. GOP senators have claimed that though they blocked Obama's Supreme Court nominee, Merrick Garland, in 2015, citing concerns over appointing a justice to the High Court during an election year, the Republican Party now controls the White House and the Senate and argue the circumstances have changed the precedent. Schumer accused Republicans of living by the rule of because we can. They completely ignore the question of whether they should. Morality, principles, value, consistency all out the window. The GOP-controlled Senate is expected to confirm Barrett's confirmation Monday. Now, interestingly enough, during the debate last night, there was nothing stated. There was nothing from the moderator, Trump or Biden, on the Supreme Court, as we shall see in this article that I have pulled up from the Daily Signal. It's a long article. I'll leave the link in the description below, along with the other articles that I have for the week. Says President Donald Trump and his challenger, former Vice President Joe Biden, clashed Thursday night in the second and final presidential debate before the November 3rd election. Trump and Biden traded boasts and criticisms in a meeting that began at 9 p.m. at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee, after officials said both men tested negative for COVID-19. What follows are 8 highlights from the 90-minute debate moderated by NBC News White House correspondent Kirsten Welker. Number 1, reopening schools and business. Says Republican Trump and Democrat Biden differed on the issue of shutdowns during the pandemic, especially in terms of reopening schools as safely as soon as possible. Trump said that although Americans will continue to deal with COVID-19, the country cannot stay closed and must continue the process of reopening. We can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation, Trump said. Biden said that he did not aim to keep the country shut down. I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country, Biden said. However, Biden expressed a greater willingness to keep lockdowns in place until certain needs are met. It goes on to say that Biden wants schools to reopen, but more needs to be done to get them into a place to do so, such as better ventilation. And it goes on to say that that Biden also said Trump had failed to negotiate a new coronavirus relief package with the Democrat-controlled House, but the president countered that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat California, doesn't want to make a deal before the election. We are ready, willing, and able to do something, Trump said. Number 2, COVID-19 vaccine in China. The first debate between Trump and Biden took place September 29. The Commission on Presidential Debates canceled the originally scheduled second of 3 debates set for October 15 after Trump objected to a format in which the candidates would appear in separate town hall settings. The Commission announced a change in format October 8, the day after Vice President Mike Pence and Biden's running mate, Senator Kamala Harris of California, met in their only debate. At the time, Trump was recovering from COVID-19 after a 3-day stay at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Thursday night, Trump repeated his prediction that a COVID-19 vaccine will be approved by the end of this year. And Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer are doing very well in developing a vaccine. Now, Welker questioned Trump about his vaccine timeline, noting that his own health officials have said that it may be well into 2021 before a vaccine is generally available. And Biden fired back at Trump, criticizing the president's handling of the virus. We are about to go into a dark winter, Biden said, and he has no clear plan, and there is no prospect that there is going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year. And as to respond, the president said he acted quickly in response to the spread of the virus and closed down flights from China in January. And Trump went on to, it goes on to say, Trump said Biden's handling of the H1N1 swine flu was a total disaster. Had that had this kind of number, 700,000 people would be dead right now. But swine flu was a far less lethal disease. And it goes on. And the third highlight is fracking, climate change in the oil industry. When it came to climate change in the energy industry, the two candidates had notable differences. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord, Trump said, referring to the International Climate Agreement the United States joined under President Barack Obama with Biden as vice president. 6 months into his presidency, Trump announced that the U.S. would withdraw from the climate agreement. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years, and we haven't destroyed our industries, Trump said. He said the climate accord was far too easy on nations such as China, Russia, and India that have filthy air. And referring to Biden in referring to his climate plan, which includes adding charging machines for electric cars to U.S. highways and retrofitting buildings to be more energy efficient, said it will create millions of new good-paying jobs. Trump said we are energy dependent for the first time. And fracking was another topic of contention. Biden says, I do rule out banning fracking. I've never said I have opposed it. And although he later said he called for banning fracking on foreign lands. And Walker said people of color are more likely to live near chemical plants and oil refineries, and that Texans living in such areas are concerned the proximity is making them sick. Trump asked Biden if he closed down the oil industry. Biden responded, I would transition from the oil industry because the oil industry pollutes significantly. And I stopped giving it to the oil industry. I stopped giving them federal subsidies. Number 4, improving health care. Trump said that the Affordable Care Act passed in 2009 and 10 during the Obama administration was no good. He said that's why the law, popularly known as Obamacare, is still being challenged in the court. The president said his administration ended the individual mandate requiring Americans to buy health insurance and is overseeing what remains of Obamacare. We're running it as well as we can, but it's no good, he said. Trump said Biden and the Democrats would push the country towards socialized medicine and government-run health care, as promoted by Senator Bernie Sanders, independent from Vermont. Biden said that unlike all his competitors in the Democrats' primary race, a list that included both Sanders and his running mate Harris, he would not advocate a Medicare for All plan. Biden said he wants Biden Care, which includes a public option for health insurance. Under a public option, the government offers subsidized plans that are less expensive than those offered by insurance companies. And it goes on, the article goes on to say that Trump also disputed Biden's claim that he would not move toward socialized medicine. It's not that he wants it. His vice president, Harris, is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more, Trump said. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine. Number 5, who's tougher on Russia? Trump and Biden sparred over America's relationship with Russia and their respective ability to deal with Russian President Vladimir Putin. On the subject of election integrity, Biden said it's clear that Russia has tried to influence the 2020 election as it did in 2016. The former vice president warned that Russia will pay a price if I'm elected. Biden said that Trump's personal attorney, former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, is being used as a Russian pawn. And the owner of a computer repair shop in Delaware, who said he believed he had an unclaimed laptop, originally dropped off in April 2019 by Biden's son Hunter, eventually put it in the hands of the FBI. He made a copy of the hard drive and gave it to Giuliani, who turned it over to the New York Post, who last week reported on some of the emails on the laptop, including one suggesting that the elder Biden met Vadim Pojarsky, an advisor to Burisma, the Ukrainian energy company, that at the time reportedly was paying Hunter Biden $50,000 a month. Biden said it's worth asking why Trump has not been tougher on Putin. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, the president said. and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow. Someday you're gonna have to explain why you got $3.5 million. And it goes on to say that one of the most dramatic moments of the debate came when Biden said flatly, "I've not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life." The president drew a line between Biden and Putin, saying that John Ratcliffe, director of national intelligence, believes the Russian president wants Trump to lose the election because there has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. Trump also accused Biden of allowing Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the seizing of the Crimea region during his time as Obama's vice president, saying of Biden, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. Number 6, illegal immigration and border enforcement. Trump and Biden had a sharp disagreement about enforcing immigration law, in particular the Trump administration's early policy of separating children from adults when they come across the southern border and placing children in detention centers with cages. The children are brought here by coyotes and a lot of bad people, cartels, and they're using them to get into our country, Trump said. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers. We let people come in, but they come in legally. Biden said the policy was used as a disincentive for more illegal immigration, but Trump said his administration actually inherited the Obama policy of putting children in cages. We changed the policy. They did it. We changed. They built the cages, Trump said. Who built the cages, Joe? And Biden admitted that the Obama administration got some things wrong on immigration enforcement, in particular on detaining children, but said his own administration would do better. We made a mistake. It took too long to get it right, Biden said. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. Number 7, Black Lives Matter and racism. When the issue of race came up in the debate, Trump defended his reputation, saying, I'm the least racist person in this room. When asked about some of his past comments, including on Black Lives Matter, Trump said, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about pigs. We're talking about police chanting pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said that's a horrible thing. He also referred several times to record low unemployment rates for blacks and Hispanics before the pandemic. Trump signed the First Step Act, a major criminal justice reform bill, into law at the end of 2018. Opportunity zones are designated low-income areas where investors can get certain tax advantages in exchange for investing there. In remarks in September, Trump noted that his administration had done for, or noted what his administration had done for historically black colleges and universities, saying last year I was proud to highlight an increase of more than 13% in federal funding for HBCUs under my administration. Abraham Lincoln over here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history, Biden said, referring to Trump's repeated line that he probably has done more for black Americans than any president since Lincoln. He pours fuel on every single racist fire, Biden said. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn. Number 8, increasing the minimum wage. Amid a discussion of the economy and the impact of COVID-19, Biden argued that the federal minimum wage be raised from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour, Biden said, adding these first responders we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15, and anything below that puts you below the poverty level. That is simply not. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out of business. That is simply not true. Trump said he would consider raising the federal minimum wage, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be ruinous, Trump said, referring to restaurants and other businesses. So and there's this from Front Page Mag, which is by Joseph Klein. Trump scores a clear victory in a more civil debate. It says that overall, while the debate may not have much of a lasting impact on the final outcome of the race, President Trump was a clear winner on points. This debate, while spirited, was considerably more civil than the first debate. President Trump kept his cool and even complimented the moderator at one point. Some had worried that Walker would be biased against President Trump based on her past conduct, helping Hillary Clinton with her heads up on a question she would ask in a post-debate interview during the 2016 election cycle. And because of hostile questions she had previously hurled at President Trump, Walker did interrupt President Trump more than she interrupted Biden, and the themes she chose for the debate were more favorable to Biden, but she was otherwise relatively even-handed in her specific questioning. Each candidate had 2 uninterrupted minutes enforced by a technician's mute button to respond to questions on each of the 6 debate topics selected by Walker. Each segment consisted of approximately 15 minutes. The candidates were free to go at each other during the remaining time in each segment after their opening remarks. And Walker chose, in choosing the 6 debate topics: fighting COVID-19, American families, race in America, climate change, national security and leadership. Walker chose to plow over ground already covered during the first presidential debate, such as the coronavirus pandemic that Biden has exploited in his campaign. She decided not to focus on new themes of interest to voters, such as foreign policy, the Supreme Court, and taxes, where there are stark differences between Trump and Biden. Shortly before the debate commenced, Hunter Biden's ex-business partner, Tony Bobulinski, confirmed in a statement to the media that he had met with Joe Biden in May 2017 regarding his son's business dealings with a Chinese energy firm. According to Bobulinski, who claimed to have substantial evidence to back up his allegations, Joe Biden lied when he denied having any involvement with his son Hunter's business dealings. To her credit, Walker asked Joe Biden about the corruption allegations, which Trump picked up on very effectively. They were paying you a lot of money and probably still are. Trump said the president also wondered out loud whether Biden was a big guy referred to in one of the emails revealed from Hunter's laptop that outlined a proposed business deal and equity allocation that was being discussed between Hunter Biden and the Chinese law firm. Goes on to say that Walker posed her first question regarding the coronavirus to President Trump. She asked the president how he would lead the country during the next phase of the coronavirus. Trump has cited the firm actions he took to deal with the crisis, including his restrictions on travel from China, where the virus originated, which Biden had originally opposed. And Joe Biden repeated his claim that President Trump had badly mismanaged the handling of the coronavirus pandemic in the United States that has killed more than 200,000 Americans. And the article goes on. Like I said, the article is in the description below. But yeah, so it was a fairly decent debate, and these next 11 days, 6 hours, 10 minutes will decide what's going to happen over the next 4 years. As a matter of fact, I got this from the Washington Free Beacon by Matthew Cottonetti. 12 days that will shake the world. President Trump needed a strong debate performance to have any hope of slowing Joe Biden's momentum in the closing days of the 2020 campaign. And a strong debate performance is what he delivered. Trump did not interrupt Biden or moderator Kristen Walker of NBC News. There was considerably less shouting than at the first debate. You could actually understand what was going on, and Trump was on message. He contrasted his record, policies, and outsider persona with Biden's. He argued for coping with the pandemic while reopening the economy and resuming in-person schooling. Perhaps most important, he defined Biden as a typical politician who was all talk and no action, and he seized on Biden's unforced error toward the end of the debate, when the former vice president admitted he wants to transition from an economy fueled by oil and gas. This time the expectations game favored Trump. The bar had been set so low for Biden prior to the first debate that all he had to do was demonstrate mental fitness and grasp of the issues. That shot fest benefited neither candidate, but Trump fared worse. He took a dive in the polls afterward, and his subsequent coronavirus diagnosis and hospitalization did not help matters. Biden's lead grew. Trump entered the second debate largely written off, but Mickey Koss calls overism is abroad in the land. Washington and New York have decided that the race is over and Joe Biden won. A peevish Trump, who spent the entire 90 minutes ranting about Hunter Biden, would have done a lot to prove their point, but that's not the Trump who showed up. The story of the laptop from hell and Hunter Biden's overseas businesses were debated, but Trump didn't launch into the personal attacks against the younger Biden that soured the last debate. Rather, Trump said the story was evidence of the Biden family's swampiness and further confirmation of Biden's status in the political establishment. Trump began to define Biden as a career official whose lifetime in professional politics resulted in the very conditions that produced the Trump phenomenon. Trump advisor Jason Miller mentioned on Twitter that Trump's underdog victory in 2016 began with a good performance at that year's third presidential debate. The Trump campaign hopes 2020 will turn out to be a replay of 2016, a last-minute scandal dogging the Democrat nominee, a disciplined Trump crisscrossing the nation on behalf of the forgotten man, and an unexpected electoral college win. Maybe they'll get their wish. What's more certain is that after Trump's performance for tonight, the White House, and just as important for Republicans, the race for the Senate is not over. One way or another, the last 12 days of the 2020 campaign will shake the world. And that is so very true there. These last these last couple of days will show just what will happen on November 3rd. I know that at least here in Florida, I think about 340,000 early ballots, whether it be mail-in or early vote or early in-person voting, have been mailed or had already happened. I know I did mine, so a lot will happen. Stay tuned here for all your information going into the election on November 3rd. And that's going to do it for the news for this week. I am Mick Bulow. Again, if you like what you watch, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. Also subscribe and tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell an enemy or two even. And I will be back next week. Until next time, peace.